Peacock here with Wilderness Innovation, and we've had quite a lot of requests from people to show different tarp setups and that sort of thing. Our tarps that we have are square tarps, so we're going to show you. This will be a series of videos. This will be the first in the series and kind of an introduction, but there's I say there's about 50 different ways to set up a square tarp. You know, and this can be done with most any square tarp, all these. Of course, what I'm going to show you is how our tarps are rigged up with the tabs placed where they are, the center tabs where they are, our tent stake bag that's kind of unique. We'll kind of make use of that in some of these setups. But your tarp will come, you know, whatever color you choose. It'll come in a bag made out of the same material as your tarp, or optionally it can come in a Cordura, Cordura pack cloth bag with a MOLLE attachment system. So you have that option. Also, all of our tarps come with parachute cord. All except for the small tarp come with 5 20-foot hanks and 550 cord, and they all come with, all but the small come with 6 ABS tent stakes. They're about as indestructible as you could care for, and they also come with, besides the shock cord that comes in the tent stakes, it comes with 3 shock cord loops that can be used at various times. And we'll show you in this series of videos. We'll show you some of the ways that we use those as well. All right, so in this setup right here, this is the, not our, but this is the classic diamond or diagonal pitch, and on the regular size tarp, that's this one's our regular PST. It's 7 by 7, and so that means on the diagonal we're about 10 feet. If you're to pitch this up with our large, which is a 10 by 10 tarp, then this would be 14 feet on the diagonal. And so this little setup right here is very versatile for one person and their gear, or you can in a pinch you can get 2 people in here, kind of depending on exactly how you set it up. And so let's get a couple more shots around of this setup, and then I'll give you actually another setup, so we'll give you a couple setups of this one. So here's this setup looking from the back left side. So as you can see, it's got 10 feet from up there down to here, and then side to side we're about 7.5 feet across there. And this is a nice setup depending on how you set up, where you can put a fire in the mouth of the small fire near the mouth of the tent, or use a cooking stove or whatever there. So that's kind of that setup right there. Let me show you a little modification to it. Okay, now this setup here is done off of the basic diamond pitch or diagonal setup, and this is actually considered another setup. We're setting this thing up a little bit differently. So what I've done here, and I'll show you, I'll just do a little pan. I'll pan this with the camera once I get done, but our tarps come with tabs. Like the regular one comes with 2 center tabs, this one right here, and then this one right down here. And so those allow you some other options of how you pull things out. Now, this is the center tab. So this setup right here is a diamond with center tab pull-up. And what I've just done, although it may not look like much, I've just added a considerable amount of extra room inside this shelter just by doing this one change and doing this other setup. Before, the line of my tarp was clear down here like this. I just pulled up another foot, another 12 inches of height in here, plus I'm pulling up on the walls and everything. I just gave myself a whole bunch more room inside the shelter just by doing that setup right here. So that's the second setup. So we did the diamond setup, we did the diamond with center pull-up. And you can see over here, I just tied off. Actually, it is just a little piece of brush. I mean, I don't need much. And then over here on this side, I've tied off up to this scrub oak tree here. Okay, so now here's a third setup. So we did the diagonal with center pull-up. Now we've done the diagonal with center and rear pull-up. And I just did the same thing again that I did there. It's not quite as dramatic. But if you're using the shelter and you're on the inside, pulling up this last little piece right here, it's amazing how much more room that gives you inside as far as some space inside here, because normally this will be drooping back like this. So pulling up right here, you can throw pack or gear back here in the back and kind of get it back out of the way. It just gives you some more room. And as you can imagine, what we just did with this, you can probably see that there's going to be some other setups that we can do. We probably won't do them today, but anyway, this is just, so this is 3 of many varieties of diamond pitch, and all of these done with our regular size PST 7x7 foot. And all this can be done the same way with the large tarp, the PSTL 10x10. It has 3 of these in the middle, so it's got even more that you can do as far as pulling up. Alright, on this diagonal pitch, you can see that on the high end here, going around the tree, I used one of our shock cord loops, one of the 3 it comes with. And I like doing that often on one end at least. It gives me some flexibility because I can rig this around the tree and then I can pull off the foot end down here, and I can kind of, you know, since it's got shock absorbing, a little stretch to it, I can kind of maneuver it around a little bit and see where to place the bottom end. Plus it gives a little shock absorbing in the wind and that sort of thing. So that's our shock cord loops. Alright, for this setup here, I'm going to sharpen a little peg, a little stick here. And I'm going to have this corner of the poncho, I'll show you the setup in a second. I want this corner of the poncho right up against the tree. So instead of tying off with anything, all I'm going to do is shove the little tab here, corner tab, right down through the loop right there that's at the tree. And when I pull back on it, see, that locks it. So now this end is secure without using any cordage or anything. Now I'll go secure the other side. Alright, so this setup I'm doing now is a diamond canopy on a ridge line. And I just showed you how I secured this other end. Now let me show you how I'm going to secure this end here. Now I always carry on my pack, I usually carry a beaner full of prusik loops. Different colors or whatever, it doesn't matter. You can make your own, you can buy them from us, whatever. But these things are really handy to use. And I'm going to show you how I show these in some videos that we do. But I'm going to use orange so you can see really good what I'm doing here. Alright, so here's a prusik loop, and to use this, what I'm going to do is you just take it and put it, I usually go, doesn't matter, you go around, go through itself, go around and through itself again, and then when you dress it out, I'll try to get another camera angle before I take this down. You want to have this part comes through the inside, the other stuff is the outside loops when you look at the 4 loops that are here. This knot has the ability when it's tightened down and dressed out that it doesn't pull when you pull on it this way, but if you move it like this, it slides very easily. So I use these quite commonly with tarp setups because I can just set up a ridge line and I don't have to worry about positioning the tarp any particular spot. Then see what I do is I just put the end of the prusik through my tab on my tarp, and that will keep it from pulling out. And now, one thing you want to make sure it's nice and tight there. Now I just pull out like this, and I just pull it till it's as snug as I want. Now I've got tension on the tarp independent of the ridge line. Alright, I just took it off the corner of the tarp just to show you. So you see this middle part right here comes up, that's the two loops right up here in the middle, and the loop of the prusik itself is these two outside ones. And when you dress this knot out, you want to make sure you do that correctly in order to have your maximum holding power. And I usually want to make sure I push up really firmly here, so you're pushing against this piece right there. Push down really firmly, and then you want to squeeze in the sides and just kind of torque that down really nice. And when it's good, you can pull on that all you want and it's not going to slide. But if you take the knot hold the knot by itself, it slides very easily. So you don't need all those expensive little knot gadgets and stuff that you don't have to tie knots with. You can do your own very inexpensively like this right here. Alright, now here's one of our tent stakes that all the tarps come with, 6 of them on the PSTL and PST. I think it's four of them with the small. So anyway, that's a shock cord that can be handy to use to give yourself a little pull that will give a little bit. So I don't always use that, but sometimes I do. I'll show you several tricks with that. Now, one other thing I told you about was that all the tarps come with 3 of these shock cord loops, and they're doubled over like this, and they have a cord lock on the end. And they're 3 different sizes, just to give you some variety. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is you can exchange these. So I can pull out the shock cord that comes with the tent stake, and then I can shove in one of these other shock cord loops. And now I can use this cord lock right here. I can use this cord lock right here to adjust the length of this thing as needed. So that's very nice. It gives me kind of a shock corded connection that has a lot of give to it, but I can easily adjust it with the cord lock. Okay, now here's another tip right here. We may not cover all these tips on these videos as they go through because we're kind of covering them now. So you see I changed out the short shock cord on my tent stake, put a longer one in, just shove my loop through here and then the cord lock through there, or the stake through there down to here. So that gives me a nice adjustable deal here. Now let me show you something while we're here. Like I say, I don't know if I'll show this tip again or not, but there's another way you can do this, and that is, instead of running it all out like this, if I want the shock cord to have more tension, if I hook it over the hook on the tent stake, I just doubled the amount of shock cording resistance there is. So I can do that and then stake that down. I'm not going to really drive them in here because I'm just kind of demoing. But see, now I have twice the amount of shock cord resistance just by changing how I hook it around the tent stake. Alright, so here I am inside this straight up diamond canopy on a straight ridge line, tied down on both sides with shock cords, and I I'm 10 feet end to end here, nearly 10 feet out the sides, probably about 7 or 8, I guess, because we're coming down a little bit of an angle. So this gives me a nice bit of out of the sun, out of some rain or whatever. I can sit on my stool and be out of the elements, have my gear inside of here, and just kind of be able to look out and enjoy nature while everything's coming down around me. Alright, so this corner of the tarp is not even staked down. I've got, a pencil-sized piece of brush right here, and I just put a loop of the shock cord loop around here, and in the end that has the cord lock is up here. And so I don't need much. I mean, that's plenty to hold this tarp down there, and the cord lock will stay in place. Will stay in place up here, and you notice I've cinched it down just a little bit to give me a little more tightness. So there you go. There's a way to utilize just a piece of brush to hold a corner of this. Alright, now I'm going to show you another version, another setup. Now this is very simple to do. This is the center tab on this poncho here, and I've run a piece of a parachute cord. And notice you have 5 parachute cords come with each tarp. I've only used 2 of them. I've only used 2 tent stakes. I've only used 2 of the 3 shock cord loops. I have plenty of resources left. So let me show you what I can do with this. You could almost say, well, this isn't another setup, but it kind of is. It's hard to say where to draw the line, because it is different. It's a different way of doing it. Now watch this. See, I can take that right there, and I pulled up on it, and what that does is gives me a little bit more. That gives me a little bit of an arch to the center there, and I'm about this high above the ridge line inside now, so it's giving me just a little more head space, and so that gives me just that much more that I can do with this setup right here. So let me show you. I should go to another setup, but since I'm here, and because it's so easy and I'm so stinking lazy, I'm going to show you another one based on this. Alright, so I'm going to give you another setup, and this is actually called, has a name setup. Now, we just lifted up on this center just to give a little more lift up into here. Didn't have to do that, but I wanted to show you that. What we're going to do now is a little more dramatic. Now, you see, I pitched this, and I often think about it when I'm pitching my tarps, is where are my diagonal center tabs at? There's 1 on the regular size tarp, or 2 on the regular, the center and this one. On the large tarp, the PSTL, there's 3 of these, the center, this one, and then 1 more, because it's got more distance here. But there's a Velcro tab underneath each one of these on the inside. And our tent stake bags that all the tarps come with have a Velcro patch on the bottom end. So I can put it over a stick. I just found a stick out here in the woods, snapped it off about the right length, and now I can stick the Velcro on the end of that to the Velcro here, and it won't go anywhere, and we can change this whole setup just like this. Now I just gave myself a whole bunch more room inside of here and some more headroom. But now you notice how this is pretty floppy. We need to change that. So what I'm going to do, now we've used 3 parachute cords so far, and remember it comes with, or we've used 3. This will be 4, and each tarp comes with 5. So I'm going to just going to tie this. What I need more distance from here to my tent stake than what I had there. So let's get that Leave that right there. I've already pounded a tent stake down there just to have it there. And I'm just going to tie a quick little taut line here. If I really needed a lot of strength in this line here, I'd tie one of the pulley style knots. I'm not going to tension this up a lot because I'm going to put this pole back in here now that I've made that chain. Okay. Alright, so there you see it. Now you kind of see why we call it the stingray. Just kind of the shape of it, the wings and kind of the head part and the tail way back there. So I'm now giving myself a lot of space underneath that setup and a lot of headroom. I've got 7 feet about at the center. Now I can pitch this lower if the weather's bad or whatever. Oftentimes I'll pitch my hammock between 2 trees underneath it, and it gives me lots of shelter space, lots of room to put my gear. I usually leave some nubs on the center pole so that I can hang my backpack and stuff. This pole here is a little wimpy, but I could hang my backpack on that one right there. And oftentimes I'll hang my jacket or hat or whatever, camera, different things. I'll hang on these little nubs on here, so that gives me a little other space to work with. Just got to give you a shot up here inside. See all that inside? Let me show you the back. So now you see that stingray look here, the long tail down here. And we pulled up on the center right there. Like I say, we don't need to, but I like to oftentimes because it kind of pulls up on there and just gives a little more angle to all the areas of the tarp to help shed rain quickly. So there's the stingray. So there's several setups we did right here, just off and we're still considered a canopy. So we just did several setups with the canopy, all basically off the ridge line. Now, one thing I should point out is the stingray doesn't need the ridge line. It's actually up off the ridge line right now. So I can just tie it off on each end right here to a tree, tie the tail down to the ground or a bush or tree, and I can put my pole in, and I can do it just like that if I want to. Now I probably would still want to tie up the center just to give it a little. If you get a heavy rain, you want it kind of tight up here in the middle if you can, so that it makes it shed pretty good and not start to puddle or pool any water. Alright, so I've got another setup done here. Nice cold water in my insulated multi-cam bottle bag. Anyway. Alright, so I've got another setup here. Now this one in particular, of course, is a lean-to. Kind of your traditional lean-to, although this isn't a straight-up lean-to. Because what I've done, and this is using the PSTL, our large tarp. So everything we're showing you on these videos is with the square tarp. So the PSTL is 10 foot by 10 foot. And doesn't really matter what it is on the diagonal, about 14 feet. At least for this setup. So what I've done is I've set it up in a lean-to fashion. I've got a ridge line across here tied between 2 trees, and I'm using one of the pulley style knots so I can really pull a lot of tension on that to get that really nice and tight. Now I could, and I've gone through the loops, you can see, I've gone through the loops on the edge of the tarp. You could do the same kind of thing and just tie on to the loops at the end and just pull it that way. I prefer, especially when I'm using the PSTL, I prefer to use a ridge line anytime I really need to torque down to get really stiff. I prefer to use that. Anyway, So I've done that. I'm using the prusik loops on each end. So I put up my line, then I centered my tarp on the ridge line where I wanted it. Then I used my prusik loops to pull tension on the tarp itself to hold it tight. Then I've got a tent stake down in that corner and down in that corner on both on shock cords, pulling down and out this way. So this little setup right here, I could easily sleep 2 people. And I've got, as you notice, I've got a ground cloth. And I didn't want to have too much hanging out in the front. Now, if it wasn't stormy weather or whatever, I could just leave it out there and just have more surface that's kind of insulated from this ground here. Has just barely had the snow melt off of it, so it's still a little bit on the wet side. So I can just do this. That way my tarp gives me my ground cloth. It gives me my lean-to shelter. So this is basically a lean-to with a ground cloth. And like I say, you could easily sleep 2 people here and be up off the wet ground. You see, I can sleep here. Another guy, my buddy, could sleep down there with his head that way. So our feet are kind of in the middle. So we got plenty of shoulder room at each end. So that's a good way for us to sleep 2 people in here, be insulated or protected from wet ground, and pretty good little setup. Something else I could do. Now, if it's rainy, you got to just make a decision on what you're going to do. But if we're a bit rainy, I might fold the corners in just a little bit, just to keep moisture from accumulating into here. So it's kind of up to you. You got to figure out based on your situation what you're going to do. So there's the lean-to setup with ground cloth. Alright, so you see here's the back side of it. I pull on this just a little bit on this prusik over here. Kind of pulls a little. I'm pulling a little harder this way than I am this way. But I could always tension this down here a little more. You see, I took out that little diagonal wrinkle back here. Alright, I'm going to show you another setup here. I'm going to tie me a cord here. Now, some people ask me what's that knot I do here. I don't know what it is. I think it's some Swedish knot or something. I think some people do it with their whole hand. On parachute cord, I just use 2 fingers. So I go like that, up around. I use my middle finger to hook it, pull it through the loop, get some tension. You see that makes a figure 8 right there. And we pull it back. Now it's slippery, so to undo it, I just jerk on it like that. Right now you see I've just done another setup. This is a whole different setup. Still a lean-to, still a ground cloth, but now I have a back wall. So it's a lean-to with ground cloth and back wall. So I'm coming up about 20 inches here, straight up on the back. Which if you got somebody sleeping or whatever, it gives them a little more room so it's not coming, the angle isn't coming out like this against them. They have a little headroom inside and the back. Now, I would point out one thing. That is, anytime you have a setup like this, that you're pulling a line across the rain shedding part of a tarp. You have to be careful that you don't create such a line that it wants to maybe start puddling in here somewhere. Now if I were to pull right here tightly, I could create, you'd think, well, that might be better. It might or might not. I can pull from here, clip onto there, put a rock in there, whatever, and I can pull back. But now I got a definite line here. Sometimes you can see rain start to puddle in here, and it gets enough weight, you can build up a puddle. So you got to think about that when you do a setup like this and you're pulling across ways. Well, I'm getting a little there we go. Well, okay, so I've just done another setup. Took me less than 5 minutes. But this is an entirely different setup. I'm not coming straight from the back, straight on up here. So now the person, say the person's sleeping against the back. Before my side would be pushing out on this back wall. Now, see, I'm coming up like this. Now it doesn't start to angle back till I get up to here. So that gives more room against the back. And let's say you want to put a backpack or some gear or something back in there. Now you've got some back wall that allows you some room for that. So now I'm pretty well off. Got a nice little setup. So there's two setups that we did on this video with the large tarp, the PSTL, two different lean-to styles, and there's many more that we can do, and we'll show you those in some upcoming videos. And I think if you look up right above this, you can probably see I still left up the coyote tarp that we did all those diamond or diagonal setups with. Anyway, I love it up here. I love any time I get a chance to get out, and I'm kind of liking getting back in with the tarp and show you a bunch of things about that. I've kind of neglected that over the years. We've been so busy with the poncho and everything, and the tarp is really an amazing thing. So this is some setups, some of 50. About 50 that I know of that you can do with square tarps. And so look on our next video. I don't know if we'll do these all in order, but we'll have a series going on an ongoing basis, probably one video a week. We'll show you some more tarp setups. So take care. Enjoy your time outdoors. I'm loving it up here. It's absolutely beautiful. Maple, look it up on the internet. I might put a link in the description. But Maple Canyon, Utah, world famous for conglomerate rock climbing. There's been climbers up through here all day today. I can still hear some up the canyon here a little bit. So anyway, we'll bring you some more videos from this area. It's really beautiful. Take care. Have a great day. Enjoy your time outdoors. Be safe. Harry Peacock, Wilderness Innovation.